I'm CJ.
And I'm Robin.
Welcome to the Cozy Kitchen.
Come and make yourself comfortable here with us by the fire.
Let's chat about baking, friendship, and cozy hobbies. If there's time and enough tea, maybe we'll even unravel some fun backstories.
I mean, there should always be enough tea. Hello, lovely listeners. Welcome to the Cozy Kitchen. Come on and pull up a chair. We've got some tea for you. It's a beautiful day. We've got a roaring fire here that we can cozy up to. And it is so exciting to talk with you guys today. We do so much baking here. And there are so many bakes that we do that are tried and true comfort bakes. But CJ, there are a lot of ways to iterate on those bakes and make them fun, make them more exciting, make them taste different. And so I thought maybe today we could talk about how we take the classics and kind of zhuzh them a little bit, how to make them a little bit more fun, how to get creative with them. And so why don't we start with something that is a recipe that you really enjoy making. You've made it for a long time. And, whenever you go to make this recipe, I thought you'd make it a little different, make it a little fun and experiment with it.
Yeah. I think what I'm going to start with today is something listeners may have already listened to was during our recipe swap, this thing called scallion pancakes. Mm-hmm. And that thing I've made I can't even count how many times I've made that thing. And so once you get to know a recipe, you kind of know the principles of what can or can't be changed. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it was very simple. I actually was recently inspired on a walk through the woods. I found this invasive species of plant that's edible. The deer don't eat it because it tastes like garlic or onion. It's actually called a three-cornered leek.
Ooh.
And it's kind of like a cross between leek and scallions. So they're
cool.
They're kind of light and delicate like scallions, but it's got kind of a leek flavor to it. So it's a cross between the two.
Now, here's a question, CJ. How did you know that this was that exact plant? Did you look it up on the internet? How did you know what this plant was?
So I did have a friend or acquaintance at the library where I was there for a writing group, and she brought some in, and she was like, "Oh, I wanted to share this. It's a really pretty plant. It has these cute little white flowers that pop up during the springtime." And I had some experience holding on to this plant and breaking the stem and actually smelling it and then tasting it. So I had some experience with it. And then when I found a local patch here, I was like, hey, I got a local supply. I'm going to make some.
Cool.
So the thought came into my head. I was like, oh, this would be actually perfect for scallion pancakes because the plant itself, it works just like scallion. It's just like scallion. You could chop it up the way you would with scallions. So that was the inspiration to modify the recipe that I had for scallion pancakes.
Very cool. I love that you've got your own source right there. And how is the flavor different? You said that it's kind of like a cross between garlic and scallions. Was there a pretty robust difference in the taste, or was it more subtle?
It's more subtle. It's more like garlic leek. So when I said leek, because the plant itself is called three-cornered leek, and I don't know if you had any experience working with garlic leek. It's a bit tougher, a bit more fibrous than scallion. So they come in stalks just like scallions, but it's more fibrous, so it's hardier. So this three-cornered leek is exactly kind of in the middle. It's a little bit more robust than scallion, but then it's more delicate than garlic leek.
Okay, gotcha.
And standard leek is even more tough and more fibrous.
I don't know much about leeks. I really haven't used them a whole lot, except for in, I think it's like frittatas, or I made a quiche one time that was
Mhm.
really good. It was like a spinach and leek quiche, and it had some really good cheeses and mushrooms and everything. But yeah, that's my only real forte into leeks. Also, that they are very dirty and need to be washed extremely thoroughly. Was that the same
Yes.
case with this vegetable that you found as well?
You,
Or is
you
it
know,
vegetable? I
that's
guess it's more of an herb.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I found it to be easier to clean, at least the wild ones here. I just like picked them and not a ton of dirt came out of them. Whereas
Mhm.
when I also recently used garlic leeks and I bought it from the store and they were so dirty. Like I had to go
Wow.
through so many rinses just to like, and each time like the whole sink was like just muddy water. I was like, oh my God, like
Wow.
it was so dirty. So the stuff that just grows in the forest, it was very clean actually.
Well, that's good. That's fascinating too. I wonder why it was so much cleaner.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I was like, I'd much rather get my local supply.
Yeah, and if it is an invasive species, it sounds like you're doing some good for your own backyard. And so, saving some money on groceries. So,
Yes.
every little bit counts.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'm hoping it will actually. I transplanted a few into my yard. I was like, maybe it'll stick around.
yeah. There you go. You never know. You could have your own little garden of it, and that would be great.
Yeah.
Um, Now, CJ, let me ask you this, because we're talking about the benefits of having a recipe that you know and love. It's tried and true. You could probably make it in your sleep if you had to. So I know that there's that saying of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But
Mhm.
I think that for recipes, it is fun to experiment and see what new things you can do with those old recipes. And I'm kind of curious, like, what what do you think you gain from mixing it up and from getting creative with these recipes that you know and love so much? Did you find out something new about this recipe? And I would love to know more about your thoughts on how it all ended up turning out.
It turned out really well. I don't know, something about making the same thing over and over. It kind of gets monotonous to me. It's like, oh, this is the same. I know exactly what it's gonna taste like. And it's just something fun to like, you know how it will turn out, you know what to change within the recipe, and it'll turn out well. You don't have to worry about it not succeeding, like failing you. But then
Yeah.
if you switch a little bit of something, the product becomes different enough that you want to eat it because you it's a new flavor. So I want
Mhm.
to ask you, because we before the podcast we're talking about this, like you are also adapting a recipe, and
Yes.
I want to know what inspired you. And yeah, same question, like
Mhm.
when you do these things, when you adapt, like what's the experience like what's different and what drives you.
Mhm. Yeah, well, so the recipe, and it's also one that you and I talked about on a very recent podcast, where we did the recipe swap, and you made strawberry pretzel salad. And again, one of my all-time favorite recipes, just a sweet, salty, crunchy, creamy. It is the whole package for me. And so my fiance and I were looking at these recipes on Pinterest, and one of the recipes that I found was for blackberry pretzel salad. So it would basically just the same as strawberry pretzel salad, but this has almost like a blackberry jam compote kind of deal on top of it instead of the strawberry jello.
Mhm.
And we both looked at that and we thought, oh, yeah, that looks amazing. We want to try it, because blackberry is a very different flavor from strawberry. And also, like, a compote is going to be different texturally than jello. So we were like, what the heck? We'll try it. We'll see if it works. And I'm gonna give it a try today, see how it turns out. But I agree with what you were saying. It's very important to experiment. And that experimentation comes from deeply understanding what makes a recipe work. for me, if I want to grow in my abilities, it isn't necessarily even about making new things all the time. I get a lot of value out of finding things that I know and love. I know the recipe works, but then tweaking the recipe so that I can then understand what exactly makes it different and how can I make it taste even better. And one other dish that I do this with quite frequently is chocolate chip cookies because chocolate chip cookies are a staple in my household. Those were some of the first cookies I ever learned how to bake, even as a kid. I remember being in the kitchen and watching my mom mix together the cookie dough. And I remember thinking, oh my God, she's so strong. She can, because I struggled with the spoon and I struggled to stir all the cookie dough together. And
Mhm.
she just comes in and just gives everything a real good stir so it's all mixed together. And so, yeah, it's one of those recipes that's been in my life for a long time, and iterating on it is very fun. So I'll use browned butter. That was one of the very first times I ever really learned about baking with brown butter. And that adds such a depth of flavor. It's just, I don't know, the nuttiness is, and it's, I don't know, like the caramelization is so good. It's 10 out of 10. Make chocolate chip cookies with brown butter.
I haven't tried that before. Tell me more about this brown butter. What's your process with the for the chocolate chip cookies?
Yeah, I do want to mention here that yes, I do brown the butter, but it is solidified when I put it in the chocolate chip cookies.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, yeah, so basically for anybody who might not know, if you don't know how to make brown butter, you just take whatever amount of butter that the recipe calls for. So for chocolate chip cookies, typically it's about a cup of butter, so 2 sticks. You put it in a saucepan, you put it on low to medium heat, somewhere in the middle, and just let the butter melt. And I don't know the exact science around this. I'm going to have to do some research on it. But I believe that as the butter gets hotter, a lot of the sugars and the fats and everything start to kind of break down a little bit. And you get these luscious little brown bits at the bottom of the pan that are so good, and they add that caramely, nutty, real good depth of flavor to your butter. And I have to be very careful in watching it because it so quickly goes from being just under where you want
Mhm.
it, like a pale tan kind of color, like it's getting there, but it's not quite there. And then
Mhm.
it's almost like in an instant, it goes
Mhm.
straight to, oh shit, this is burnt.
Yeah.
So so it's, yeah, I always like to pull my brown butter a little bit before I think I need to because
Mhm.
it's going to keep, like, being hot. It doesn't just stop being hot as soon as you pull it off the stove.
Yep.
So if it's not quite where you want it to be, it can get brown for just a little bit longer, just pull it off the heat, keep
Mhm.
stirring it, and then you'll have some good brown butter. Is that about your method, CJ, or do you do something different?
No, no, no. The residual heat is real, so you
Mhm,
have to factor that in when you're cooking. So always pull it off a little bit earlier, and you can always add more heat later if it wasn't enough. Like add a little bit
mhm.
more, but be on the safe side, because otherwise you're just gonna ruin the ingredient and you have to throw it out.
And yeah,
And
because brown butter, when it gets burnt, it does get very bitter and not in the good way. It
yep.
is like there's bitter where it's like, oh yeah, this dark chocolate's really bitter, but I like the taste of it because it's balanced well with the sweetness. But then there's burnt.
Yes.
That's not
Yes.
good.
Exactly, exactly. Yes.
Mhm.
So that was my question. I was like, oh, I wonder how she works this in. So it sounds like afterwards you pour it out and you, I guess, put it in the fridge and it'll solidify.
Yeah, yeah, that's typically what I like to do. I've also heard of methods where people will have bowls that they can nest inside of each other, and the
Mhm.
bigger bowl is filled with ice, and then you pour the butter into the smaller bowl, put that on the ice, and then
Mm,
stir that
mhm,
until it gets a bit more solidified.
mhm,
And that I think also works,
mhm,
especially if you want the butter to be a specific consistency. Maybe
mhm,
you want it to have a little bit of that spreadability. I've heard of people doing stuff like that as well, and I think that
mhm,
that time, if you wanna add even more components to your brown butter, like, let's say you wanna make an herbed brown butter, that's
mhm,
a great place to do it. You can take whatever herbs you want, whether it's, you know, parsley, rosemary, dill, whatever it is, and that's kind of when you can incorporate it a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, because although I guess you could also just let the herbs kind of sit in the brown butter as it's browning as well. That would impart a lot of flavor
Yes.
too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
mhm.
definitely. Oh, and fun fact, if you take that brown butter and put it into a filter, the butter that comes out is basically ghee. Um,
Oh, cool. That's clarified butter.
yep, yeah, you're just filtering
Interesting.
out all the milk solids that brown stuff that like is in the butter.
Nice. That's very cool. We do have some ghee in the fridge, and I've been meaning to use it up. But I do love the brown bits because I feel
Mhm.
like those have such great flavor.
Yes. So cookie wise, like what
Yes.
other variations on chocolate chip cookies do you do?
I like to play around with the type of chocolate in the chocolate chip cookies. Typically, I'll use chocolate chips, but I also really love using diced up chocolate bars because there's something about having the finely shredded chocolate that you get from chopping up the chocolate. I
Mhm.
love seeing those little specks in the cookies as well.
Mhm.
And I'll also sometimes like to add in some oats, make like an oaty
Mm.
chocolate chip cookie because I
Mhm.
think the oatiness adds something to like texturally as well, and I think it's really good.
Uh-huh.
There are people who might disagree because I know that there are a lot of haters out there for oatmeal raisin.
Uh-huh.
CJ, what are your thoughts on putting oatmeal in cookies? I gotta know.
I love oatmeal raisin, so I think that your variation on chocolate chip, I would totally go for it.
Hooray! Thank you. Because yeah, like, I feel like the main complaint that I hear about it is like, "Oh, it's too, quote, unquote, healthy." And to that I say, "Who cares? It's delicious."
Yeah.
It's about the texture. I think the texture's great, and the oats add
Mhm.
something taste-wise as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now do you use brown butter in any of your baking?
Um, I haven't recently. I haven't done that a whole ton with brown butter. Only more in like savory cooking. Like I'll
Mhm.
use brown butter to make a sauce for gnocchi or something. Um,
Ooh,
yeah.
delicious.
Yeah, so it's mostly in the savory department. I think I've made brown butter cookies at some point, but it's been a while since I've done that.
Very
Um,
cool. Yeah,
yeah.
it's delicious. So, like, you already mentioned that you made the scallion pancakes with the
Mhm,
garlic leeks just recently. Do you have any
mhm,
plans in the future, in the immediate future, I guess, to make anything that is almost like a comfort bake for you? Like, you know the recipe inside and out. Do you have any
mm.
plans on iterating on anything like that? Or are you in a space where you're just like, no, I kind of want to just make the recipe just as it is?
Mhm, mhm. Let's see. Well, I'm pretty cooked out lately because I actually hosted a dinner. I made like, oh gosh, I think I made like 7 courses.
Wow, I'm coming over to your place. Sounds incredible.
It was
I know
well,
you gotta walk us through what you made too, because from what you were saying before, it sounded incredible.
so I went to like Chinese food, and so it started with 3 small appetizer plates, and each one I made it from scratch. There was tofu threads. I don't know how else to describe it. It's basically
Like noodles made out of tofu
yeah,
or like
yeah. It's like
okay.
noodles made out of tofu, a very firm tofu, and it's like that. It's like a salad. So these are cold dishes, and it's got some sesame oil, salt, and shredded carrots and celery, and that's it. Like you basically toss it, and that's starter one. Starter
Mhm.
two was just crushed cucumbers with garlic, and it's same thing.
Ooh,
Just toss it with some salt and sesame oil. And then
nice.
the third one is braised peanuts. And
Ooh.
peanuts, you can just boil them to hell. And then you add the soy sauce and the spices, and it's very simple. And what's interesting is my guest over, she was like, "Oh, they do this in the South." In like Louisiana and stuff, like they just take whole peanuts with the
Oh.
shell and they
Hmm.
just boil it in salt and water and that's it and they'll eat that. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
similarities to Chinese culture and Southern
That's
food.
cool. I have heard of that. It like boiled peanuts is yeah, like that's a thing in the South. I've never had them, but I
Mhm.
mean, they sound great. It's simple, delicious. What's not to
Yeah,
love?
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to try that. The Chinese have something very similar. They're
Hmm.
typically shelled, but I
Okay.
think they do have ones that are the whole peanut with the shell.
Ooh.
And then I went through four mains. Gosh, I'm just getting tired just talking about it.
Oh no. Oh no.
I
Jeez.
made the scallion pancakes, but instead of scallions, it was that three-cornered leek. Um,
Yeah.
I made two types of dumplings. So one is the traditional garlic chive dumplings, but I made it vegan. And this is all from scratch, like from flour, water.
Mhm.
I'm like making the dough, I'm making the
Wow.
filling, I'm wrapping each dumpling. Um, and
That's very impressive.
I made like 50 dumplings. Um,
Holy crap. CJ, that's so many dumplings.
I know. Then I made a second version, which was made of the three-cornered leek
Mhm.
as the dumpling. So I made that, and it was also vegan. So I made two types of dumplings, and then I made a gua ball, which is a you can basically call like a Chinese pulled pork sandwich. And so it's instead of a sandwich like a bread loaf, you have a steamed bun that you
Mhm.
have the meat that's been braised in soy sauce and spices. You top it off with pickled mustard greens, some cilantro, and then chopped nuts. Usually
Ooh.
peanuts with a little bit of sugar in that mixture of nuts.
Oh
Um,
my god. That sounds so freaking good.
I think that was my best dish for the whole
Mhm.
thing. I really like that dish. I'll have to make it for you sometimes. Or I may put it in the recipe swap and make you make it yourself.
Yes, I would love to, and I really wanna try the vegan version that you made because we don't always keep vegetarian and vegan. We try to do meatless days every now and again, but I really would love to try the vegan version because I don't know, I feel like it would be really good.
And that's the thing about being, if you have dietary restrictions,
Mhm,
oftentimes you come up with, you find a recipe that looks really good and you want to try it, but you have to
mhm.
adapt it.
Yeah.
So that's our episode today about adapting recipes, often adapting the ones that you enjoy. And those that you enjoy might be ones that you've adapted from the meat version or whatever ones that you couldn't eat.
Yeah, and I love that because it makes recipes so much more accessible that way, you know, even barring like vegetarian restrictions or anything, like if you have allergies, when you want to work around those, that's also really important. And it's good to know how to adapt recipes so that it fits you, or even if you just don't like an ingredient. Like there have been times whenever I've been working on a recipe and it'll be like, "Oh yeah, add walnuts." Walnuts are, for whatever reason, one of those foods that if I can get away with not having them in a dish, I will, because I don't like them very much. So, I don't know why walnuts, they're
Uh-huh.
bitter in a way that just doesn't taste very good to me. Um
Mhm, mhm. I could see that.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, but I love the freedom that it gives you, and that's why I think it's so important to test your skills with baking, and obviously, practice makes perfect. It's important to make the same things a bunch of times, but then that kind of gives you room to be more experimental with
Mhm.
a lot of other recipes, and the world is your oyster. If your recipe is telling you to do a thing and it you don't like that ingredient or something, either find a different recipe if that ingredient really is crucial to this dish, or experiment and see what happens and see how it turns out. Maybe you like it better than what the recipe ends up coming up with. So, you never know. You never know.
So I have a question for you. If you were to tell someone who's just beginning to bake or cook, they don't really have that confidence to make changes to a recipe. Like, where would you start them off with? Like, how do you get them to start enjoying our favorite passion?
Yeah. Oh man, I feel like that could be a podcast episode in and of itself. So we might do that. But a very abridged answer would be to find a recipe that is trustworthy. So this would be anything that is online that you can find that has a lot of really good reviews. They've probably been online for a while. They're rated very highly. They're responsive in the comment section when people say, "Oh, hey, what do you recommend whenever XYZ happens?" And so I would say find a recipe that can be your guide. And then whenever you find a recipe that makes a lot of sense to you, read it thoroughly. Like, yes, we learn best by doing, but it does help to read things thoroughly because sometimes a recipe will have you do something and you either don't know what it means or it doesn't make sense to do a thing that way. So, for instance, whenever I was making the scallion pancakes before, the recipe said use boiling slash hot water to mix into the flour. And even as experienced as I am, I was like, why hot water? Like, what is the reason for this? Explain yourself. And the recipe you sent over, CJ, was very great in helping me understand why hot water was actually very necessary for this as opposed to cold water or lukewarm water. And so, a good recipe, I think, will also contain those details. And then I think once you're actually making it, give yourself some compassion and grace and understanding and say to yourself, okay, this is the first time I'm making this. If it doesn't turn out great, then that's fine. This is for learning. I would also, on that note, very much encourage anybody who is new to baking. If you have not made a recipe before, and this goes even for experienced bakers like us, if you have not made a recipe before, do not plan to make that recipe and bring it to a gathering, especially if it is the day of. I just, like, I feel like we all have lofty aspirations.
Yep, yep.
And I think that it's totally understandable to want to amaze people with your baking skills. We all want that. That's why we do this. However, I would highly recommend against doing that. And whenever you are baking a recipe for the first time, pretend that it's just going to be for you. If it turns out well, if you understand what it's trying to do and you are able to execute it well, then you can make it a second time because I guarantee you making it a second time, it will probably be easier than the first time you
Mhm,
make it.
mhm.
So, I would also recommend take the pressure off yourself. Don't freaking make a brand new thing for people if you are still trying to figure out all of the odds and ends of the recipe. So,
Yep. Yeah, that is great advice.
do you have
So
any advice, CJ?
I it's the same. I agree with your advice completely. You wanna start with a good base, like, the recipe is
Mhm.
tried and true, and if you haven't done that recipe before, don't try to don't even if it's a tried and true recipe, don't try to make it for a dinner party. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
give
Like,
yourself time to learn it. Oh, before we go, I had a question.
yes.
So, like, we had talked previously, and you had made a recent recipe that was Thai. It was like a curry. You didn't particularly enjoy it, or like it wasn't like
Mhm.
something that you loved. How would you change it?
That is a good question. And I want to preface by saying I do like Thai food. It's not my most favorite cuisine, but I do enjoy it. And I don't really, I think that the hard part about figuring out what I would do with this recipe mostly stems from the fact that I don't really know exactly why I don't like it. The recipe is pretty simple. It's basically just getting some tofu and browning it in a pan, and it's crumbled like if you were to brown ground beef.
Mhm.
And the sauce had a white miso, red curry paste, soy sauce, peanut butter, a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of rice vinegar, and I think we put some coconut milk in there as well. It made a nice kind of like thick sauce. It was enough to coat the back of a spoon. And then we used udon noodles, which were like a little bit smaller than spaghetti size. It's like between spaghetti and angel hair, and that was a really great size for that dish.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so yeah, brought it all together, and it's very, I think the miso paste made it very unctuous and it made it very savory,
Mhm.
and that's not a bad thing, but for whatever reason, that plus the peanut butter, it was very heavy and very savory. So maybe if I were to do it again, maybe I would brighten it up a little bit, maybe put some lime in there and maybe give it a little bit more of a kick to it.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I wanted to like it because I want to incorporate more vegan cooking into our meals and everything. But for whatever reason, this just wasn't speaking to me. So yeah, I love the
Mm.
idea of like seeing how else to jazz it up a little bit.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Was
mhm.
it the peanut butter, or was it, because I think you said the white miso didn't do it for you. Like what
Yeah.
ingredient was it?
And I honestly, I think it was a combination of both because it's very thick and it does kind of coat your mouth a little bit and not
Mhm.
really necessarily in a bad way. But again, it's just my own preferences, my own taste
Mhm.
buds, just
Mhm.
not loving it. And white miso, I think, has a very savory kind of a taste to it.
Mhm.
And I think it almost to the point where it hits a little bit flat. And so I need something to brighten it up. It needs something
Mhm.
like to maybe something like saltier or a little bit on the sweeter side or something citrusy or something to kind
Mhm.
of boost it.
Mm.
Because yeah, otherwise it just I don't know. I genuinely don't know what it was that I wasn't thrilled about with it. Um,
So it's interesting when you described the noodles. Initially, you said udon noodles, and in my
mhm,
head, udon is a specific type of noodle which is
mhm.
very thick. And but then you later told me it's somewhere between angel hair and spaghetti. So it
Yeah.
sounded fairly thin,
Mhm.
and that type of noodle is actually called somen. Um,
Oh, okay.
and when I think about this dish now, I could see why potentially, because the sauce is so thick and
Mhm,
like rich, because the noodles are so thin, it's gonna, as you pick it up and slurp it, it's
mhm.
gonna collect a lot more sauce than it would if it was the traditional udon noodles, which is probably like three strands of the thickness of three strands of spaghetti together, three or
Oh,
four
yeah,
strands.
and those are much thicker. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's gonna
Mhm,
have a lot less sauce
mhm,
around something like a udon noodle versus a
mhm.
somen, which is very thin. So you're gonna
Okay.
get a lot more sauce. So I wonder if you used the udon, the thick one, if it would
Mhm.
change the way you experience it.
That might be a good thing to do because, like, my fiancé prefers the thinner pastas and thinner
Mhm.
noodles, but, yeah, maybe if it's a thicker one and I'm wondering too if maybe the noodles, instead of being more, cylindrical, I guess, if instead they were flatter, that might change how it tastes a little bit, even though all of the ingredients would still be the same in terms of, like, spices and the miso paste and peanut butter and everything. Those would still be the same, but maybe just having a different surface area for that sauce to gather on, that might make it different.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Something to
might
think
give that a
about.
try.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I like I said, I do want to incorporate more vegan stuff, and this is a very easy dish to make. So, yeah, I might give that a try. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's fun to adapt recipes.
I think so, especially if it means that you're eating healthier and you're able to get more nutrients in, have an easy dinner. So, 10 out of 10. I love
Yeah. Yeah.
it.
Like, tailor it to your taste.
Exactly, exactly. I love that you can get to a point where you're comfortable enough with doing things that you can iterate on them and get creative and better
Yeah.
understand it. So,
Yeah, yeah. We're all learning, and it's
yes.
just this is our journey in life, and you have a hand in feeding yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And if you can feed yourself well and enjoy doing it, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us by the fire today. We loved having you. If you have any ideas for what you want us to talk about next time, please leave a comment and we'll do it. So yeah, we're excited to see you next time.
Yes. Well, have a good day.
Yeah, you as well. We'll see you later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this episode of Cozy Kitchen.
We're so glad you stopped by. We can't wait till the next time you join us by the fire. See you later.